It's not often that we have two Yomis on the show, but we do have another Yomi join me here on the auto segment on this show. And he's from Auto-Centric Garage, that's Yomi here. And he's, he's becoming a household name here. He helps us out with a lot of consulting with our cars. Now, we're talking about transmission fluids. We started last week, and Yomi is going to be talking to us about, generally about transmission fluids and the things that we need to know and pay attention to. So where do we start, Yomi?
First, hi guys, good morning. You first need to know where your transmission dipstick is. Now, what's the dipstick? Is the point you use to measure and check.
Measurement. Yeah.
Yes, measurement.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. Very good.
So we need to know where the dipstick is.
Yes. Now, for this car, this is a Toyota Corolla, right? It's placed in front here, and you can easily
Find it.
Yes.
But some other cars is a bit difficult.
Some other cars is a bit difficult. Some you can't even check. The owner can't check. You need to take it to a workshop.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Why is that?
Because they don't want you tampering with your car. Some auto manufacturers do that. They don't want you tampering with your car. But some are friendlier and customer friendlier. So they can have you check it yourself.
Okay.
So once you locate the dipstick, you need to then look first at what's written on it. For this model of Toyota, now it says WS. There'll be a couple of things written on it.
Yeah.
Now here it says WS. You'll be wondering, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Then you need to look at your fluid level. So now, looking at this fluid here, it's a bit dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are three things you need to check when checking your transmission fluid. You need to check out the smell, the color, and texture. Now, looking at this looks a bit dark, right?
Yeah.
Which is not so bad. At this point, it's closer to pink than it is to black. So that's a good transmission.
So what's the original color?
It's meant transmission colors become in pink.
Okay, so they usually come in pink.
Yes,
so
when
once
it's
it
brand
begins
new,
to-
unused. Once it gets into your transmission system and it starts to work, it starts to change color gradually.
Yeah, okay,
Good.
okay.
So when you check this way, this is really close to pink than it is to black, so it's good. I mean, it was changed recently.
Yes.
Right? You also need to check it when it's hot, not when it's cold.
So when it's been used a little bit?
Yes, you might run the engine for about 2-3 minutes before you check, right? So with that, you will get the accurate measurement. Now, unlike your engine that you should check when it's cold, for transmission, the engine has to be warm. And before checking, you need to run it in all the gear positions. That's from the park, reverse, neutral drive, and if you have lower gears, check them. Then put it back in neutral. Engage your handbrake on a flat surface. Then pull out the stick. Then you'll get proper measurements of where it would be.
Right.
Okay, so that's very important.
So that's for the measurement itself.
The measurement
now,
itself.
Let's talk about all these other writings that we have on it. So
Okay.
we talked about WS and a couple of other numbers that we're seeing there.
Good. WS is the transmission fluid type. It means world standard for Toyotas, So that means this is the recommended fluid because each manufacturer, each brand has its own fluid type you should use,
So, but people just generally park the car and say, please give me transmission fluid, and then
Error.
anyone that you're giving is the one that you pour in the car.
It shouldn't be. That's
so
bad practice.
You shouldn't do that. It's
You
bad
shouldn't do
practice.
that. You need to get the recommended fluid type for your car.
I never knew that. I actually never knew that.
Really? Remember there was a time people had a lot of Nissan Muranos, and they had issues?
Yeah.
Yes, a lot of the uneducated mechanics had problems because they just would put in any transmission fluid.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And for that model, that Nissan Murano, they had a particular type of transmission fluid
That we were supposed to
that
have
would
used
work
for
it.
that car.
Yes, I think it was the Matic D. So if you use a regular Dextron 2, for instance, you would ruin the gearbox immediately.
Wow.
Yes. There was a lot of, back then, a lot of people condemned the Nissan Murano that the gearbox was bad. No, it was the uninformed mechanics.
Uninformed mechanics. Okay, so...
And owners too.
So we're talking about the type of transmission fluid that you use, and this one is WS. So WS, what does that mean?
World standard.
So that means world standard, it means I can use anyone?
No, it means it's a Toyota specified transmission fluid. So if you go into the market and you ask for Toyota WS transmission fluid, you will be given this.
And it should be written on the bottle that is WS.
Yes, it will be written that. But then if you don't find a WS, there are alternatives to it. You can then use a Dextron 4 for it.
Right, because that will then be the active ingredients.
The active ingredients will be the same.
Yeah.
So for instance, you're in a location you can't find WS, you can then use a Dextron 4 that would work fine for it.
Right.
In fact, from Dextron 3, you are good. It would work fine for
So
you.
that's specific to Toyotas. If you
Toyotas,
find
yes.
Toyotas anywhere.
Yeah.
So is there any other thing we need to pay attention to on this dipstick?
On this dipstick, you need to be sure you have the dipstick with you and you're not pulling out the engine or...
Yeah, that happens a lot as well.
Yeah,
because
so you're not pulling
sure,
the... Yeah, so on it will be written ATF. In most cases, this has ATF written here as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so ATF means automatic transmission
fluid, right.
So once you need to read and look at it, so you don't pull out the wrong dipstick and you're busy with the wrong thing.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So really, really important to ensure that you know which one is for your car. So how then do you know if your mechanic is knowledgeable enough? Because there are some people who, like, I don't ever try to check my I can check my engine oil generally, but transmission fluid I probably won't check. So imagine if I just took my car to servicing, how do I know that my mechanic is using the right one? Do I educate him or do I ask him?
You need to ask. Ask first, because he might know.
He might know, he might not know.
He might know and he might not know. So when you ask him, he will then tell you, okay, yes, this is the right thing I'm doing. This is what you're meant to do and like that. So once you ask the question that what fluid is recommended for my vehicle, you understand? Because some vehicles will use the Dextron 3, some will use Dextron 4, some will use, you know, the WS, you know, for the Hondas. So they have their own fluids for them, you know, the Z1 and all of that. So each manufacturer, each car brand has their transmission fluid.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
But
So
more importantly, I want us to pay attention to transmission or gearbox maintenance. A lot of people don't even know you need to change the gear fluid at a certain point. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Okay.
I just thought, you know, once it shows me a light or whatever.
No.
Or, you know, people. So I'm happy that we're having this conversation because, you know, people are getting educated to know that they can ask questions. Number one, ask your mechanic questions. Number two, do these checks by yourself if you can. And, you know, like you're saying now, it means that you also have to do maintenance by changing the fluid when it's at a certain level or when it's dark.
Yes, which I would recommend at least once a year.
Once a year.
Once a year, have your transmission.
So not too often, but, you know, once a year.
Yes. For instance, you can say at every or maybe every 6 months, which might come down to twice a year. It's also a function of use too. How do you use your car? What do you use it for? For a vehicle that does a lot of hauling, does a lot of long trips, you should have it changed more often because the transmission is really working hard.
All right, Yomi of AUTOMEDICS Garage, thank you so much for joining us this morning and talking to us about transmission fluid. I've learned a thing or two actually, and this is really, really nice. So how do I find you on Instagram?
You can find us at AUTOCentricGarage_NG. One word, AUTOCentricGarage_NG. We're also on Twitter at AutoCentricG. We're on Facebook as well at AutoCentric Garage.
Thank you so much, Yomi, for joining us.